First of all, that is where the missile launchers are, as well as around playgrounds. So are the Muslims going to search their scriptures for killing Jews indiscriminately? To be fair, they would not have to look very far. The demon that Muslims worship demands it, and his followers have taught that for years. With the IRS, DOJ, and FBI, remember, it is only a crime when a Republican weaponizes the federal government, even though President Trump is not. I am old enough to remember when President Obama cut school funding, including school lunches, because schools would not allow boys in the girls' bathroom. I thought Democrats hated rich people, so why would they want the federal government to give money to rich people? I guess it is because these rich people let terrorist sympathizers shut down their campuses. Mr. Worker would not have the same cartoon over Obama ruling by executive order, after announcing that he did not have time to wait for Congress to act. As for the rest of these, I blame previous sessions of Congress and previous administrations for giving unchecked authority to the president's office. Then when one has the gall to use that power, suddenly he is the villain. I would like to point something out for the record. Mr. Worker did not and would not make the same cartoon when Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats argued for fixing the same fraud and abuse. Instead, the Democrats just started adding more layers of red tape and bureaucracy. After all, Democrats believe that unless the government has complete and total control, it cannot work. The only way to maintain this status quo is with massive taxes like Sweden and Denmark. However, even if we taxed all of the millionaires and billionaires at 100%, we could run the federal government for about 3 months. Which is why we need to get spending under control. Remember that only Democrats can claim an election was rigged. And President Trump wanted to be Pope as much as he wanted a third term, or to make the liberal wasteland of Canada the 51st state. It was all just to mock liberals and their Trump derangement syndrome. It seems that Mr. Jones forgot about Michael D'Antonio, when in 2012 he made a picture comparing Obama to Jesus Christ. And he was not the only one. President Trump mocked liberals. Obama's supporters blasphemed. Now, as someone who watched one of my previous videos noted, yes, the produce of the farm is not restricted by tariffs, but the machinery and the equipment is. And I am willing to admit when the opposition has a point. However, all these other countries have to do is lower their tariffs on American goods. Then we can have free trade for all of this equipment. And may the country that sells the best equipment win. All that being said, what modern farmer is actually using a sickle these days? Completely inaccurate, but since this is all the way in the Netherlands, I will give this cartoonist some slack. You do not have to be pro-Israel. You just cannot shut down a campus to other students in the name of a terrorist group. Discussion and dialogue make us better. Cancel culture does not. Diversity is great, but merit is more important. Liberals allow for every form of diversity except diversity of thought. And activism is great. Just do not shut down the campus or infringe on the life, liberty, or property of another, like burning cars and shooting up car dealerships as a random example. To those of you who think this cartoon is logical, let me bring some facts into the argument. Ellis Island is all about legal immigration, a legal framework by which people can enter the country, as opposed to immediately surging the border as Biden proposed. Sometimes it just comes down to language. I support migrants and legal immigrants, but not the invaders. This cartoonist is all the way in Austria and thus has more of a stake in this war than America does. So his government can deal with Russia and leave America alone. Does this Russia collusion nonsense show any signs of ending? Of course not. If President Trump really was siding with Russia, he would not be negotiating a peace deal and would be sending American forces to target Ukrainians. Remember that all this started based on fraudulent evidence created by the Clinton campaign. This is comparing apples and oranges. These two countries have been at war since before Pakistan technically existed. It was the whole reason that the country of India was split in pieces to begin with. They have had many wars over the years, but this went over the top, thanks to Muslims killing tourists, because that does not in any way sound familiar. What we have here is a fundamental misunderstanding of how our government is supposed to operate. Democrats and RINOs believe that the government is meant to control every aspect of our lives, whereas Republicans and Libertarians believe that the government exists to protect our rights and not much else. What we have in the first panel is a similar misunderstanding. The federal government has been approving dangerous compounds for years, calling them generally recognized as safe or grass. Now that they are being removed, liberals believe that it is the same thing as anarchy. As for this second panel, why does this have to be done by the federal government? This is a state issue. Even so, there are also private companies that will do this job at half the cost. With liberals, their solution to everything is big government, even the problems caused by big government. And because someone will mention it, never confuse capitalism with cronyism. Now, before I talk about this, I need to cover a bit of history. Even Politico agrees that the Clinton Foundation accepted millions of dollars in donations from foreign governments. These same countries got special treatment by the State Department that Hillary Clinton oversaw. However, this was called a conspiracy theory at the time, despite being 100% true. Now, this plane is not even being given to President Trump. It is being given to the State Department. Maybe Mr. Anderson is finally realizing that the Russia collusion narrative was fake, and thus is helping to create the Qatar collusion narrative, a country that he, like most Americans, could not locate on a map. The proof of the pudding is in the tasting. If President Trump gives a special deal to Qatar, I am sure that the fake news will jump right on it. Likewise, I am sure that Mr. Anderson will provide his sources as soon as he makes them up. However, the President of the United States accepts gifts on behalf of other countries all the time.